Flowisdom presents The 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Book summary.
Negotiate while advancing. The diplomatic war strategy. Strategy 21. When negotiating a settlement, you should not let up on the pressure to advance. This provides you more to negotiate with and does not give your opponent time to regroup. War by other means. Philip II of Macedonia came to power in 359 BC. The city-state of Athens did not support his ascent. In the negotiations between the Athenians and Philip II, he continued to make promises of peace, but continued to grow his empire. Eventually, he formed the League of Corinth. Note: the book refers to this as Hellenic League, which appeared 100 years earlier, to ally many Greek city-states to attack the Persians. Jade Fertile. At the onset of the Greek War of Independence, 1821, the Russia's Greek-born foreign minister Capo Istria felt it imperative that Russia support Greece. This would give Russia access to warm water ports in the Mediterranean. Wary of the desire of Austria's Prince Metternich to keep Russia from these ports, he cautioned his emissary to not let Metternich negotiate. This failed, and Metternich played to the weaknesses of Tsar Alexander I, and he thwarted attempts of Russia assisting Greece. Keys to warfare. Be amiable, but focus on the goal of advancement. Negotiation gives your opponent time to regroup. Maintain pressure and advance to give your opponent reason to conclude. Ask for little, you get only a little. Know how to end things. The exit strategy. Strategy 22. Know when you are beat and cut your losses. Know how to win with flair and bring a positive conclusion to the encounter, reducing your opponents in the future. No exit. The Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan and the resulting war caused a no-win situation for the Soviet Union, primarily due to the lack of understanding of the Afghan people. Significant expense, monetarily, politically, and in troop loss, caused Gorbachev to withdraw Soviet troops, completed in 1989. Note: a potential error in the book where Greene refers to Afghanistan's ports on the Indian Ocean. I can find no reference to alliances that would bring that. Ending as beginning. Lyndon Johnson fought a tough election for the Texas 10th congressional seat in 1937. He had few friends in the party and soundly defeated the well-seasoned political veterans. Immediately after the election, he amiably approached his opponents, thanking them to the hard fight and successfully wooing them into his alliance. Keys to warfare. Dreamers never complete, their end is always poor. Closure needs satisfaction for all involved. Humiliation of the defeated only creates animosity. Conclusion in exhaustion is not favorable since there is not energy left to create alliances. Conclude realizing the end is more important than the success of the fight. Part 5. Unconventional, dirty war. Weave a seamless blend of fact and fiction. Misperception strategies. Take the line of least expectation. The ordinary, extraordinary strategy. Occupy the moral high ground. The righteous strategy. Deny them targets. The strategy of the void. Seem to work for the interests of others while furthering your own. The alliance strategy. Give your rivals enough rope to hang themselves. The one-upmanship strategy. Take small bites. The fait accompli strategy. Penetrate their minds. Communication strategies. Destroy it from within. The inner front strategy. Dominate while seeming to submit. The passive-aggressive strategy. Sow uncertainty and panic through acts of terror. The chain reaction strategy. Weave a seamless blend of fact and fiction. Misperception strategies. Strategy 23. Deception is an ancient art and invaluable when throwing people off your track. Misinformation and decoys can consume your opponent. The false mirror. During preparation for the invasion at Normandy in World War II, the Allies developed a significant number of deceptive plans. These included a fake army in England, FUSAG, and a look-alike of General Montgomery in the Mediterranean theater. A wealth of misinformation, paralyzed Hitler's decision-making capabilities when the actual invasion started, slowed his reaction. Keys to warfare. Make a strong front look weak. Make a weak front look strong and attack from another direction. Feed your opponent with misinformation. Maintain a pattern with the intent of changing it for surprise. Use imaginative and complete camouflage. Make the real look false and the false look real to create complete ambiguity. Take the line of least expectation. The ordinary, extraordinary strategy. Strategy 24. Do the unexpected. If always calm, be radical. If always radical, do something ordinary. Unconventional warfare. Use tactics that your opponent does not know. Mix ordinary tactics with the unusual. Act crazy but calculated. Continue to think of new things. Historical examples. 1. In 219 BC, Rome decided to take the offensive with Hannibal. They chose to face him at the Trebia River. Hannibal exhibited erratic behavior, drew the Roman army across the river, and then shocked them with his use of elephants. The Romans made many other attempts to draw Hannibal into a fight, but Hannibal did the opposite of what they expected, giving him a great advantage. 2. Cassius Clay challenged then heavyweight champion Sonny Liston to the boxing in 1962. Title: Clay's unorthodox behavior and fighting technique and his nonconformist behavior gave him a great advantage in the fight, since his opponent did not know what to expect. 3. In 1862, Ulysses S. Grant, American Civil War general, led a battle to capture Vicksburg, Mississippi. He moved troops across the Mississippi River and sent them toward Jackson to cut the supply lines to Vicksburg. This move was not expected, since it would mean that Grant's forces would not have their communication lines open. It surprised Confederate General John C. Pemberton, who was unable to predict the impact of the maneuver. 4. The Ojibwa tribe had an elite band of warriors called the Wendigoken. This band would act crazy during battles, yelling the exact opposite of their intent. This caused confusion in their opponents and terrified them not to engage in battle. 5. For the New York Society of Independent Artists' first exhibition, Marcel Duchamp chose a radical new format. Anyone could exhibit a work of art. Duchamp, under the pseudonym R. Mutt, submitted a urinal laying on its back called The Fountain. There was outrage in the organization, but opened a new view and challenged the definition of art. Occupy the moral high ground. The righteous strategy. Strategy 25. Justify your cause as the correct and moral way. Show your opponent's self-serving side. Show yourself as the underdog. The moral offensive. Pope Leo X wanted to complete construction of St. Peter's Basilica. To raise the funds for the church, he started the practice of selling indulgences. A German theologian and priest named Martin Luther challenged the practices in the 95 Theses, saying that only God could forgive one's sins. He argued his stand based solely on the Bible, systematically refuting each of the Pope's retorts. This effort by Martin Luther was the genesis of the Lutheran and Protestant traditions. Keys to warfare. Reveal the hypocrisy of your opponent. Justify your actions based on morality. Represent yourself as good, your opponent as bad. An immoral act will ruin your reputation. Make your opponent start the actual fight. Wars of self-interest are short and defined. Wars on moral grounds are long and protracted, attempting to annihilate the roots of the immoral. Deny them targets. The strategy of the void. Strategy 26. Remove any targets you have for your opponents. Do not create a front or make your front so broad that attacking it attacks their base. No targets will frustrate your opponents, increasing the chance they will make a mistake. The lure of the void. Napoleon's 1812 invasion of Russia met with a retreating Russian army, putting up little resistance and buying time. Cossacks sniped him. Retreating Russian troops left behind burned out towns and fields and no food. The initial French force of 450,000 troops was reduced to 100,000 by the time they reached Moscow. The retreat lead to further decimation. Keys to warfare. Guerrilla bands are easier to hide and maneuver. Large armies are susceptible to guerrilla attack. Guerrilla warfare is strongly psychological. Exhaust the opponent. Lure your opponent to attack to use guerrilla tactics effectively. Seem to work for the interests of others while furthering your own. The alliance strategy. Strategy 27. Form temporary allies to meet your current needs. Do what is necessary to hide the temporary nature of your business. Undermine the alliances of your opponents to weaken them. The perfect ally. 1467 Charles I, Duke of Burgundy, expanded his empire by forming an alliance with Edward IV of England to attack Louis XI of France. But King Louis XI found out about the invasion and formed an alliance with Edward IV, removing the threat from the Duke. False alliances. Murray Bowen, a psychiatrist, used his clinical knowledge to resolve a personal family situation. He wrote a series of letters to family members in order to show concern for the person, but exposing a series on gossipy relations that were in the family. In this process, he actually created a degree of autonomy for himself, which gave him the power to control the situation and facilitate his siblings in creating a healthy family relationship. Keys to warfare. Find those to advance your current interests. Help someone else you need help from to create debt. We need allies in our struggles, for resource, skill, or protection. Damage others' alliances. Play the autonomous center, brokering resolution. When fighting allies, create mistrust between them, dividing their ranks. Give your rivals enough rope to hang themselves. The one-upmanship strategy. Strategy 28. Give your opponents the space to make mistakes. Provide them with assignments they cannot complete and damage their reputation. Hide your involvement and maintain your innocence. The art of one-upmanship. Look for the internal rival, find their weak spot, and needle it to make them anxious. Employ others to work the anxiety and make it bigger. Get the rival to overreact and step back and let them do the rest. When they are near the end of their destruction, offer help, not to rub in the defeat, but help show your innocence. Historical examples. 1. John McClernand volunteered as a brigadier general in the American Civil War. He wanted fame and ascension to the presidency. He tried using his influence with President Abraham Lincoln to try to take over the siege of Vicksburg, Mississippi. General Grant, whose department Vicksburg fell under, caught wind of the plans and diverted troops head to McClernand for his own use. This and other actions infuriated McClernand, who made numerous moves that alienated him from his allies. 2. Académie Française was founded in 1635 to maintain the purity of the French language. In 1694, King Louis IV appointed the Bishop of Noyons to the council. Although qualified, he was arrogant and offensive. On Inauguration Day, the Abbé de Caumartin gave a subtly mocking speech that was seen as such by all but the bishop. His eventual humiliation led to the bishop leaving the academy. 3. Shukahara Bokuden, renowned samurai, was challenged by an ambidextrous young samurai. Bokuden accepted the challenge, but focused challenger's attention on the unfair use of his left arm. In the fight, Bokuden attacked his right. Later, in 1605, the swordsman Genzaemon was challenged by Miyamoto Musashi. Musashi showed up late and in non-standard attire. This angered Genzaemon, positioning him to make many errant moves. 4. Bob Dole of Kansas challenged George H. W. Bush for the 1988 Republicans' nomination for president. Lee Atwater, Bush's strategist, knowing of Dole's temper, spread rumors about his wife's, Elizabeth Dole, qualifications as Secretary of Transportation. Dole's anger came through in the media, severely damaging him. 5. Joan Crawford had a continual rivalry with Norma Shearer and Bette Davis. She contrived 2 methods for stealing their thunder. With Shearer, she worked to annoy her on set and got her to expose her nasty demeanor. While with Davis, she stole the spotlight while accepting Anne Bancroft's Oscar for the miracle worker. Take small bites. The fait accompli strategy. Strategy 29. Make advances by small pieces, often going unnoticed by your rivals. By the time they notice your growth, it may be too late. Piecemeal conquest. Upon the fall of France to the Germans in World War II, Charles de Gaulle received permission from Winston Churchill to broadcast to the fighting French over the BBC. The broadcast was met with great public support. He continued to expand this small foothold by leading forces in Central Africa, building the French resistance with Jean Moulin. When FDR's plotted to replace him with Henry Girard, de Gaulle fought bitterly with Girard and was able to fill his staff with de Gaulle loyalists. Keys to warfare. People dislike confrontation, so giving little pieces is easy. Take control. Your opponent will have to fight to get it back. Look for opportunities in a rival's troubled times. Be patient. Time is your ally. Penetrate their minds. Communication strategies. Strategy 30. Fight with words that will occupy your opponent. Make them think and try to interpret your meaning. Use actions other than words, when needed, to make a lasting impression. Visceral communication. In filming The 39 Steps in 1935, Alfred Hitchcock handcuffed the leads Madeleine Carroll and Robert Donat, and then fainted losing the key and left them handcuffed for many hours. The ploy was to make them understand the script they were about to play. Hitchcock furthered his indirect communication by actions contrary to the situation, working his actors' minds. The mastermind. Niccolò Machiavelli worked in Florence's second chancery. As Florence went in and out of Medici control between 1494 and 1512, Machiavelli was displaced from his job. In order to stay in touch with the Florentine government, he wrote The Prince, on princely rule, and engaged his friend Francesco Vettori to show it to the Medicis. He later wrote discourses on Livy. These unpublished works were a stepping stone for Machiavelli to return to favor. After his death, the manuscripts were published in multiple languages. Eventually, his works permeated the minds of many cultures, having a greater communication power than Machiavelli could have ever imagined. Keys to warfare. Use the profound to stay with other people over time. Communicate with action, not only words. Silence can say more than words. Shock will bring short-lived communication. Communication must focus on change. Dominate while seeming to submit. The passive-aggressive strategy. Strategy 32. Use non-aggression to fight your opponent. Their aggressive acts will benefit you and garner support from others. Since there is the presentation of both good and bad traits, people normally see only the positive approach. The guilt weapon. To protest the salt tax imposed by the British Raj, Mahatma Gandhi staged a 200-mile march to the ocean. The Governor-General of India, Lord Edward Irwin, was relieved at the seeming insignificant action Gandhi proposed. Lord Edward Irwin did nothing to stop the march, but the march attracted thousands. Irwin had limited his options since he had not acted early to stop the march, and now it would be a big issue. Gandhi had chosen his protest wisely, benign to the British and poignant to the Indians. Passive power. Tsar Alexander I wanted to reform the monarchies of Europe. He used the 1820 revolts in Spain and Naples to solicit a meeting of the monarchs to address the issues. Austrian Prince Metternich used this to subtly move the Tsar to a position of supporting the old guard rule over any form of liberalization. Keys to warfare. Using passive-aggressive behavior, the positive stands out. Succumb to others while covertly fighting. Do not be too eager for power. Train yourself to see passive-aggressive and react to it. Stop passive-aggressive behavior quickly. Sow uncertainty and panic through acts of terror. The chain reaction strategy. Strategy 33. The goal is chaos and creating the lack of trust in familiar surroundings. What was once safe is now uncertain. The anatomy of panic. In 1092, death of Nizam al-Mulk was at first felt to be a reprisal for the attempts to suppress the growth of the sect Nizari Ismaili. The Nizari, a group cloaked in secrecy, had developed a new method of revolt where assassins, derived from Arabic hashishin, would emerge from a seemingly calm crowd and kill their target with a dagger. This new form of warfare appeared to be able to manifest itself in an omnipresent form against its opponents. Keys to warfare. Responding dispassionately will defeat the cause. Thwart the attacks at the point of the attack. Create unstable ground. Take the moral high ground, exploit being the victim. Randomize the frequency of attack. Most effective in small bands. Fighting back in a disproportionate manner fuels their cause.
This was released from For the Sake of Education by Flow Wisdom. If the content was helpful, make sure to subscribe.